Hey everyone, Christina Tali. Today we're going to be talking about probably one of the greatest scientists of our age, if not ever. Somebody who's influenced so much stuff, including a lot of geek culture and everything else, who unfortunately has passed away today. So let's get to it. Okay, hey everyone. Once again, it's Christina Tali, That Trans Geek Girl. I'd like to welcome you all back to episode 21, where today we will be talking about Stephen Hawking. For those who haven't heard, today is 3/14/18. It's a Wednesday, and the news has come in that he had unfortunately passed away today. This is a huge loss to the scientific community as well as even, believe it or not, the geek culture community. But we're going to get into that in a minute. First of all, I have one little thing I need to talk about, which was the ill-fated episode 20. I do need to talk about that one real quick because unfortunately, that would probably be the last reaction video I ever did. I did a reaction video for the movie Veronica, for those who don't know. However, it triggered so much copyright violation that my YouTube channel, the guys on YouTube, you might not be like, where is episode 20? I don't even see it. It's because YouTube wouldn't let me post it, and I actually gained a copyright strike on my account because of it. So this would be the last time, that would be the last time I'm doing any kind of watch through like that, reaction video. So just to give you guys a heads up on that, if you want to check the video out, it is still available instead of like 31 countries. But it is available on Facebook, on my Facebook account, which is at That Trans Geek Girl, which is Christina Tali, which is the fan page for myself. There's also some great updates for my radio shows, my special appearances I do on other shows, things of that nature. So let's get into Mr. Hawking. So as the news came through today, I was browsing through Facebook like I do every morning, and I came across an article from the BBC that was saying that Stephen Hawking had passed away at the age of 76. A lot of us have heard the name. A lot of us are not sure exactly what he did and who he was. We've seen him in a variety of, different shows, stuff like that, parodied, things like that, which I will get into close to the end of the episode. But who was he really? That's what we're going to talk about first. Most everyone knows that he is the author of a very well-known book. It's called A Brief History of Time, from the Big Bang to the two black holes. Yes, this is my personal copy of this book. I've actually read it a few times. He's a brilliant man, like I said. This book, just to give you an idea how huge this book was when he wrote it, this is a scientific book. This is not sci-fi. This wasn't anything else. And this spent 100 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. 100 weeks. It spent on the British Sunday Times bestseller list in England. It spent 237 weeks. Okay, now math down how many weeks are in a year. How long was this book staying on this list for? I'll let you guys do the math because I don't feel like dealing with it right now. Because I want to get on with the show. So that's what we know about Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking, he was born January 8th, 1942. He passed away today, like I said. He was an English theoretical physicist, a cosmologist, author and director of research at the Center for I can't even say that word today. Oh, sorry, I apologize. Theoretical cosmology within the University of Cambridge. His scientific works include collaboration with Roger Penrose on gravitational singularity theorems in a framework of general relativity and the theoretical prediction that black holes emit radiation, often called Hawking radiation. Hawking was the first to set out theory of cosmology explained by a union of a general theory of relativity and quantum mechanics. He was a vigorous supporter of many world interpretation of quantum mechanics. The thing about this, a lot of people don't realize, a lot of his theories, black hole theories, especially his theories on black hole, which is mostly where his theories laid into, play a lot into our sci-fi, movies. Every time you see him, possibly being able to jump through a black hole. Yeah, we didn't really even know about black holes until Stephen Hawking's, just to give you an idea. Also, Hawking was an honorary fellow of the Royal Society of Arts, which is the FRSA. He was a lifetime member of the Pontifical Science of Academy of Sciences, and a recipient of the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which was the highest civilian award in the United States. In 2002, Hawking was ranked 25 in the BBC's poll of the 100 greatest Britons. I'm British myself as well, I will say that, and yeah, I'm probably like 1 billion, so get my subscribes. No, I'm kidding. Let's be serious. I'm going to be serious on this one, so I apologize. He was the Lucasian Professor of Mathematics at the University of Cambridge between 1979 and 2009. And received commercial success with his works of popular science, which he discusses his own theories and cosmology in general. In his book, once again, A Brief History of Time, like I said before, it was just a record-breaking book when it was released. So many people bought this book, people who probably didn't know anything about things like this, and this was one of my major starts. Just so you guys know. Hawking did also have a rare early onset slow progressing form of ALS, which is amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, which gradually paralyzed him over the decades. Throughout his life, he was still able to communicate using a single cheek muscle attached to a speech generating device. So, I mean, he was quite an amazing person. He was born once again in 8th of January 1942 in Oxford to Frank and Isabel Hawking. His mother was Scottish. Despite their family's financial constrictions, both parents attended the University of Oxford, where Frank read medicine and Isabel read philosophy, politics, and economics. The two met shortly after the beginning of the Second World War at a medical research institute where Isabel was working as a secretary and Frank was working as a medical researcher. They lived in Highgate, but as London was being bombed in those years, Isabel went to Oxford to give birth in greater safety. Hawking had two younger sisters, Philippa and Mary, and an adopted brother, Edward. Sorry about that. I'm quitting smoking right now, and the phlegm and crap's coming off my throat, so all that tar. So I'm doing good things for myself. I'm trying to be healthy, but once in a while I have to cough. In 1950, when Hawking's father became the head of the division of parasitology at the National Institute for Medical Research, Hawking and his family moved to St. Albans, Hertfordshire. In St. Albans, the family were considered highly intelligent and somewhat eclectic or eccentric. Eclectic. No, I'm thinking of my old radio show. Meals were often spent with each person silently reading a book. They lived in frugal existence in a large, cluttered, but poorly maintained house and traveled in a converted London taxicab. During one of Hawking's father's frequent absences working in Africa, the rest of the family spent months in Majorca visiting his mother's friend Beryl and husband, and the poet Robert Graves. As for Hawking himself, he began schooling at the Britton House School in Highgate, London. He later blamed his progressive methods for his failure to learn to read while at school. In St. Albans, the 8-year-old Hawkins attended St. Albans High School for girls for a few months. At that time, younger boys could attend one of the houses. Hawking attended Radlett School, an independent school in the village of Radlett in Hertfordshire, for a year, and from September 1952, St. Albans School, an independent school in the city of St. Albans in Hertfordshire, after Hawking's passing 11 plus a year early. The family did place a high value in education. Hawking's father wanted his son to attend a well-regarded Westminster school, but the 13-year-old Hawking was ill on the day of the scholarship examination, and the family could not afford the school fees without financial aid or of a scholarship. So Hawking remained at St. Albans. A positive consequence that was Hawking remained with a close group of friends with whom he enjoyed board games, manufacture of fireworks, model airplanes, and boats. A long discussion about Christianity and extrasensory perception from 1958 with the help of mathematics teacher Dikran Tata. I'm sorry, I don't know the pronunciation, so if I got it wrong, I do apologize. Where they built a computer from clock parts, an old telephone switchboard, and other recycled components. And this is in 1958, so it's not like now. You know, computers now are a lot different from back then. Out of old clock parts and just random, that's pretty incredible. Though known at school as Einstein, Hawking was not initially successfully academic. With time, he began to show a considerable aptitude for scientific subjects and inspired by Tata, dedicated to read mathematics at university. Hawking's father advised him to study medicine, concerned that there were few jobs for mathematics graduates. He also wanted his son to attend University College, Oxford, his own alma mater. As it was not possible to read mathematics there at the time, Hawking decided to study physics and chemistry. Despite his headmaster's advice to wait until the next year, Hawkins was awarded a scholarship after taking examinations in March 1959. So Hawkins began his university education at University College, Oxford in October 1959 at the age of 17. As many know, it's 18 years old. You're 18 usually you go to college. So he actually went to college a year early. For the first 18 months, he was bored and lonely. He found academic work ridiculously easy. His physics tutor, Robert Berman, later said it was only necessary for him to show that something could be done, and he could do it without looking to see how others did it. A change occurred during his second and third year when, according to Berman, Hawking made more of an effort to be one of the boys. He developed a popular, lively, and witty college member, interested in classical music and science fiction. Part of the transformation resulted from his decision to join a college boat team, where he coaxed a rowing crew. I just can't talk today. I don't know what's up with me, so... The rowing coach at the time noted that Hawking cultivated a daredevil image, steering his crew on risky courses that led to damaged boats. Hawking has studied about 1,000 hours during his 3 years at Oxford. These unimpressive study habits made sitting his finals a challenge, and decided to answer any theoretical physics questions rather than those of factual knowledge. A first-class honors degree was a condition of acceptance for his planned graduate study in cosmology at the University of Cambridge. Anxious, he slept poorly the night before the examinations, and the final result was on the borderline between first and second class honors, making a oral examination necessary. Hawking was concerned that he was viewed as lazy and a difficult student, so when asked at the oral examination to describe his plans, he said, "If you award me a first, I will go to Cambridge. If I receive a second, I shall stay at Oxford, and so I expect you to give me a first." He was held in higher regard than he believed. As Berman commented, the examiners were intelligent enough to realize that they were talking to someone far, far smarter than most of themselves. After receiving a first-class BA honors degree in natural science and completing a trip to Iran with a friend, he began his graduate work at Trinity Hall, Cambridge in 1962. So... this is a little bit of school history, because his history is very important so you understand who Stephen Hawking was. His graduate years, Hawking's first year as a doctoral student was difficult. He initially disappointed to find that he had been assigned William Skamia, one of the founders of modern cosmology, as a supervisor rather than noted astronomer Fred Hoyle. He found his training in mathematics inadequate for his work in general relativity and cosmology. After being diagnosed with motor neuron disease, Hawking fell into a depression. Although his doctors advised that he continue his studies, he felt there was little point. His disease progressed more slowly than doctors predicted, though Hawking had difficulty walking unsupported, and his speech was almost unintelligible. An initial diagnosis that he had only 2 years to live obviously proved unfounded at this point. With Skamia's encouragement, he returned to his work. Hawking started developing a reputation for brilliance and brashness while he publicly challenged the work of Fred Hoyle and his student Jayant Narikar in a lecture in June 1964. Let's move on a little bit of his career stuff. I mean, this guy, like I said, he was an absolute incredible person. And the thing is, the thing you don't realize, he's popped up in so much pop culture, so much geek culture stuff that it's just not even funny. Like I said, I already talked about his theories, everything else. I mean, the man was brilliant. But the thing you don't realize is how many times did he actually show up in television, in, movies, stuff like that. And the thing is, he's appeared as himself. So, for example, he's appeared himself he did an interview in 2014 on Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. He showed up as, he did Alien Planet, I Love the World. He showed up on Late Night with Conan O'Brien. Into the Universe with Stephen Hawking was a 3-part miniseries he did. The Masters of Science Fiction, which was a science fiction anthology series, which was hosted by Stephen Hawking. Off screen, it was just his voice, but still, that was actually Stephen Hawking's. Red Dwarf. Hawkins appeared on a special episode of Red Dwarf about the popular British TV series. He praised the creators for the witty use of pseudo-scientific theories and said that he enjoyed watching the show. Star Trek The Next Generation, at the beginning of the season 6 cliffhanger, Descent Part 1, Data is seen playing poker with holographic depictions of Stephen Hawking, Sir Isaac Newton, and Albert Einstein. Hawking portrayed his own hologram for this episode, making him the only guest in any Star Trek series to play himself. When taking a tour of the set, he paused at the warp core, smiled, and said, "I'm working on that." During the tour, Hawking requested and was allowed to sit in the captain's chair of the Enterprise D. Brent Spiner, who plays Data, reportedly quipped an obvious tongue-in-cheek manner that Hawking's cameo was the most notable moment in television history since Albert Einstein guest starred on The Gunsmoke. The 11th Hours, and it was a film about the effects of human activity on the environment. Hawking gave his explanations of these effects. Genius of Britain, Hawking presented the links for a 5-part 2010 Channel 4, which is another British channel. Anyone who's British TV, you got BBC One, BBC Two, Channel 4. I know there's more now, but back when I lived in England, that's what we had. But it was a series profiling British scientists. He showed up in quite a few episodes of The Big Bang Theory. Like so many times as himself. Like once again, he was him playing himself. Red Nose Day 2015, in a sketch with David Walliams and Catherine Tate, Hawking appeared in the guise of an Andy Pipkin character who transforms into a transformer. Pretty fucking cool. And University Challenge 2016-17, Hawking presented the winner's trophy to the team from Balliol College, Oxford. Also, he's been portrayed by other people, of course. There was a movie called Hawking, which is celebrating the life of Steve. It was a drama about Hawking's time as a postgraduate student at Cambridge. Check it out. It's actually really good, and it's actually the person who played Stephen Hawking in this is actually Doctor Strange himself, Benedict Cumberbatch. I've seen it. It's actually a really good movie. I do recommend it. Stargate Atlantis, in the 5th season of Stargate Atlantis, episode 16, which is called Brainstorm, where many world physicists were invited to a demonstration of cooling effect using a wormhole between two universes. Stephen Hawking, played by an actor, was shown to his chair from behind. Superhero movie. In a parody take on Spider-Man, Hawking, played by actor Robert Joy, jokes about himself within and the theory of everything. Portrayed by actor Eddie Redmayne in a biopic about Hawking from the early 60s to the 80s. Hawking agreed to allow the filmmakers to use his speech synthesizer voice for the film. However, here's one thing a lot of people do not realize. We know he's popped up in quite a few cartoons. However, he actually played his own voice. Yes, it was actually Stephen Hawking's talking in these. Futurama. He made several guest appearances. His first appearance, I believe, was the episode where I'm trying to remember it now. It was the one where they had what's his name in it, and it was Al Gore, and they had kind of like the vice presidential action rangers thing going on, and who guarded the space-time continuum, and it was Nicole Nichols, who is Uhura, Gary Gygax, who created Dungeons and Dragons, and of course Al Gore, and Deep Blue, who is IBM's supercomputer of the time. Also showed up in the film Beast of a Billion Backs. Hawkins appeared as his own head in a jar, leading a scientific convention organized to study and discuss a tear in the universe. He also appeared in the video game in the last episode of Futurama's 6th season, Reincarnation. He's popped up in several episodes of The Simpsons. He's popped up in the Fairly Odd Parents as well. He showed up in the episode Remy Rides Again in a mechanical flying wheelchair with rockets on the back of it, which at the end of the episode disappeared in a way similar to that the DeLorean went back in time. So you could just imagine, you can picture it. I don't need to explain it, but it was pretty freaking cool. In this, he was actually played by D. Bradley Baker. In this episode, Hawking was hired by Remy to prove that 2 + 2 = 5. And also Crocker's roommate, in college. So it was kind of cool. He was referenced, and his references is absolutely insane too. He was referenced in stuff like in Doctor Who, The Wrong Coast, Weeble and Bob, User Friendly, Hawking. Legally Blonde, Lost, Superhero Movie, Knocked Up, The Vicar of Dibley, Computer Stew, Father Ted, Whose Line Is It Anyway, Seinfeld, Malcolm in the Middle, Big Bang Theory, The Double, The IT Crowd, Colbert Report, Goodnight Sweetheart, Star Trek The Next Generation, Sliders, and the Avengers 2012 film. Also in The Critic, which was a cartoon which had John Lovitz, I believe, was the main character, was the main voice actor in that. Dexter's Laboratory, Dilbert, Family Guy, Foxtrot, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. You see what I mean by saying the pop culture references? Jimmy Neutron, Pinky and the Brain, Transformers, Ugly Americans, The Simpsons. Also, I'm going to keep going on here. There's a lot of parodies of him too. Music and radio. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. He was the voice of the books in a new series. That was the BBC series. John Holmes is a comedian for BBC Six Music Radio, reciting songs. Das Racist, the Brooklyn-based rap duo, makes a reference to Hawkins in the song. Weird Al Yankovic makes a reference to him in White and Nerdy. Graydon Squares, an atheist rapper, makes several references to Hawkins. The Bob and Tom Show, Hawking is portrayed as a spoof on the show. Juno Reactor, Hawkins is quoted in a track Landing. Manic Street Preachers 2009 album Journal for Plague Lovers features a track named Me and Stephen Hawking's. Pink Floyd, Hawking's voice was sampled by Pink Floyd for their song Keep Talking. Richard Cheese and Lounge Against Machine. Richard and Hawking sang The Girl Is Mine in a charming duet on the album Aperitif for Destruction. But of course, it was an impersonated voice, but still. Robin Williams, even. Late, great Robin Williams. In his 2000 DVD, Robin Williams live in Broadway, he mentioned that I called Stephen Hawking's house once and proceeded in a mechanical voice, "Hello, this is Stephen Hawking's. Yes, I would like to leave a message. No, this is Stephen Hawking's." On the B-side track, Boston, of the CD released in 2002 comedy, Williams met at MIT is the only place Stephen Hawking's can do comedy, followed by a Ronald Descartes joke. The Voyage, which is a New York City Metropolitan Opera commissioned by composer Philip Glass, commemorates the 500th anniversary of Columbus's arrival in the New World. Features a wheelchair using a scientist based on Stephen Hawking's. Turbo Negro, Hawking's voice is featured on the song The Party Zone. Lemon Demons, lead singer Neil Cicieria, I can't say his last name, I apologize, sings I'm on fire, I'm on a big train going faster than Stephen Hawking's brain. Yes, the band uses lyrics Hawking's Mind in the song Real Love, featured in the 1994 album Talk. Bloodhound Gang, in the song Boom, Jimmy Pop mentions, I squeak like Stephen Hawking's, yeah, but I'm walking. So wrong, but it's Bloodhound Gang. Symphony of Science, the original production by John Boswell. Portions of Hawking's Universe series were used as lyrics and included in A Glorious Dawn. Radiohead. Stephen Hawking is often mistakenly thought to have given his voice to Filter Happier on Radiohead's album OK Computer. It was actually singer Thom Yorke's computerized voice. Epic Rap Battles of History. It's popped up in several episodes of ERB. As he was portrayed by Nice Peter. Appeared in the 7th episode against Albert Einstein. He also popped up in a couple in, I know, the 2nd and I believe the 3rd Hitler versus Vader episodes as well. The Thump in Volume 1 of the song Talk Nerdy to Me, a spoof of Talk Dirty to Me, included a Stephen Hawking's-like voice near the end of the song. And also, last but not least, I cannot forget MC Hawking's, which was a complete parody album. I actually have the album. I believe it was actually, and there was a couple loose songs where he did all kinds. It was an imaginary alter ego for, it's a theoretical physicist turned gangster rapper. His songs parodied Hawking's assistive speech synthesizer. Songs include like E = MC Hawking, Quake Master, Fuck the Creationalists. And the album was called A Brief History of Rhyme, which once again is a play on his book, A Brief History of Time. He's also been in books, comics, and newspapers. He was, but like I said, the JLA. For example, Batman manages to defeat Prometheus by replacing the martial arts skills Prometheus had downloaded with the physical skills and coordination of Stephen Hawking. Plume County and the comic strip Hawking is said to have a rivalry with the strip's resident boy scientist. The Ultimate X-Men, there's a reference to Stephen Hawking having written the article on mutants. And it goes on. I mean, he's done so much. He's even shown up in British Telecom commercial. He did a voiceover for a couple of those. In video game Shin Megami Tensei, in this video game and the sequel, there is a wheelchair using character who is obviously based on Stephen Hawking named Stephen. Mass Effect, in a video Mass Effect, which I love Mass Effect. Oh my god. Anyway, Mass Effect series is Nebula called a Hawking ETA. Most likely named after Stephen Hawking. In Mass Effect 3, one of the characters mentions that they served as a fighter pilot aboard a carrier called the SSV Hawking. Human carriers in the game's universe are named after great leaders, artists, and intellectuals. The ship was named in honor of Stephen Hawking. He also did advertisements for Jaguar cars. He's popped up on video games Simpsons Tapped Out. Hawking appeared as a guest character on the Sci-Fi 2000s. Oh, I'm sorry, it was an event, not the game. I was thinking of the game. My bad. Monty Python Live, mostly. Hawking sang an extended version of the Galaxy song after running down Brian Cox with his wheelchair in a pre-recorded video. Symphony of Science, clips of Hawking are used in the first and fifth installments of Glorious Dawn and the Poetry of Realization. Toho Project, Zun references Hawking as in the comments of one of the spell cards for character Eren Yagokoro in Imperishable Night, calling him the Wheelchair Man. He is also released in the song entitled Future Universe of Wheelchair. Even he was parodied not so much by Gum in Sacha's Party as well, so which is another reference right there, where it was an incredibly smart piece of gum that was confined to a wheelchair and using a speech synthesizer, even though that one's a little more, you can tell, but it's not. Microshaft Wind Blows 98. I had this up. It was like just a great time waster. It was a parody program that was written to make fun of Microsoft Windows 98. I mean, it's just, I know it shows my age, but I had a copy of this. In fact, a future episode, I'm going to see if I can get a copy of this, and we're going to go back in time and do Windows 98, because the program was hysterical. So I'm going to attempt to try to get a copy of it and get an emulator going so we can actually run it, or try to run this under Windows 10 and see what we can do. But like I said, it goes on and on. The last thing I want to do for this episode is I want to actually read Huff's obituary from the BBC, so we can actually learn about who Stephen Hawking was. So here we go. So I have it pulled up on my other screen. 2 monitors, you gotta have them, especially podcasting. Stephen Hawking, who died at age 76, battled motor neuron disease to become one of the world's most respected and best-known scientists of his age. A man of great humor, he became a popular ambassador for science and was always careful to ensure that the general public had ready access to his work. His book, A Brief History on Time, became an unlikely bestseller, although it is unclear how many people actually managed to get a hold of it. He appeared in a number of popular TV shows and has lent his synthesized voice to various recordings. Stephen William Hawking was born in Oxford on the 8th of January 1942. His father, a research biologist, had moved with his mother from London to escape German bombings. Hawking grew up in London and St. Albans, and after gaining a first-class degree in physics from Oxford, went on to Cambridge for postgraduate research in cosmology. As a teenager, he had enjoyed horse riding and rowing, but while at Cambridge, he was diagnosed with a form of motor neuron disease, which is the ALS we've talked about, which was to leave him almost completely paralyzed. He was preparing to marry his first wife, Jane, in 1964. His doctors gave him no more than 2 or 3 years to live. But the disease progressed slowly than expected, a lot more slowly than expected. Honestly, the couple had 3 children, and in 1988, although Hawking was by now only able to speak with a voice synthesizer following a tracheotomy, he had completed A Brief History of Time, A Layman's Guide to Cosmology. It sold more than 10 million copies, although its author was aware that it was dubbed the most popular book never read. He received honorary degrees, medals, prizes, and awards throughout his career, and was honored with a CBE in 1982. He was reportedly offered a knighthood in the 1990s, but never revealed if he had turned it down over issues with the government's funding for science. Hawking discovered a phenomenon which became known as the Hawking radiation, where black holes leak energy and fade into nothing. He was renowned for his extraordinary capacity to visualize scientific solutions without calculation or experiment. But it was perhaps his theory of everything suggesting that universe evolves according to well-defined laws that attract the most attention. His complete set of laws can give us the answers to questions like how did the universe begin, he said. Where is it going and will it have an end? If so, how will it end? If we find answers to these questions, we really shall know the mind of God. Hawking's celebrity status was acknowledged even by The Simpsons. He was depicted drinking at a bar with Homer, suggesting that he might steal Homer's idea that the universe is shaped like a donut. He appeared in a special documentary about BBC comedy series Red Dwarf, during which he spoke about why he enjoyed the show, and also starred in Star Trek The Next Generation as a hologram of his own image. The rock group Pink Floyd used his distinctive synthesized voice for the introduction to Keep Talking on their 1994 album The Division Bell. Undeterred by his condition, he continued his work as a Lucasian professor of mathematics at Cambridge University, and in 2001 his second book, Universe in a Nutshell, was published. He believed his illness brought some benefits. He said before he developed the disease, he had been bored with life. But his condition inevitably made him dependent on others. He often paid tribute to his wife, who had looked after him for more than 20 years. His friends and relatives were shocked when he left her for one of his nurses, Elaine Matson, who he married in 1995. The couple later divorced in 2006. By 2000, Hawking was a frequent visitor to the emergency department of Addenbrooke's Hospital in Cambridge, seeking treatment for a variety of injuries. Police questioned several people about allegations that he had been subjected to verbal and physical abuse over a period of years. He was known to be erratic, almost reckless driver of his electric wheelchair, and Hawking insisted his injuries were not caused by abuse, and no actions were taken. In 2007, he became the first quadriplegic to experience weightlessness on board of the so-called Vomit Comet, a modified plane specifically designed to simulate zero gravity. He said he did it to encourage interest in space travel and booked a seat on Sir Richard Branson's Virgin Galactic suborbital spaceplane. I believe that life on Earth is an ever-increasing risk of being wiped out by a disaster such as a sudden nuclear war, a genetically engineered virus, or other dangers. I think if the human race has no future if it doesn't go into space. Therefore, I want to encourage the public's interest in space. In 2014, the film The Theory of Everything was released, based on Jane Hawking's account of their courtship and marriage. Hawking himself met Eddie Redmayne as part of the actor's preparation for taking on the role of the scientist. In a series for the Discovery Channel, he said that it was perfectly rational to assume that there was intelligent life elsewhere, but warned that aliens might just raid Earth of its resources and move on. Hawking also predicted the end of humanity from global warming, a large comet, or a new virus. He collaborated with Russian investigator Yuri Milner in 2015 to work on projects to find evidence of alien life. He once wrote that he had motor neuron disease for practically all his adult life, but said that if it had not stopped him from having an attractive family and being successful in his work. It shows, he said. That's the one, that one need not lose hope. Rest in peace, Stephen Hawking. So that's all the time we have for this episode. This episode's coming out early because, obviously, so remember, go on Facebook, add me on Facebook, Christina, which is at That Trans Geek Girl, Christina Tali. That's where you find all the news for everything which I'm working on, my radio show, this, everything else. Also on Twitter, which is at @trans_vixen. Also, our YouTube channel, which is at That Trans Geek Girl, if you're watching this on Facebook, because we do dual uploads from this point forward, because it's easier. Remember, if you want to catch episode 20, you have to go on Facebook and look at it. And also, remember, we do have a Patreon account that is linked to in the comments. So please, we can use any help we can get to keep this show going. Always trying to upgrade, always trying to do better. And with your support and your help, we can do that. So until next time, everyone stay safe, everyone be good, and y'all have a good one.
してる最中誰にも心触らせたくなくてほっぺつり上げて笑顔取り繕うために何をしようかのプランで愛を歌う並べただけの単語に意味なんかないのさそれでいいのさこの気持ちに気づいてしまう前にケンケンパンひょうひょうと言って曲げそうな時はごまかしてそれが何